It is transform your health and life. So I will actually start with the what's going well. I showered today, so I'm going to take the win. And that's like, I had a good night's sleep and I had a power morning. Kristen, what is going well for you?
Well, we're enjoying bath time.
Okay. Okay, that's a win.
And I guess the obvious, it's my birthday and it went pretty good today.
Happy
Happy
birthday!
birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday. Okay,
May we
Christina,
ask how many years young you are? Is that an acceptable? No,
Oh,
Jody's
yeah,
saying
I'm
no.
fine with it.
Okay.
Nobody else wants to know. I don't need to share, but it's the big 44 this year.
Oh, congratulations for making it this long.
Thank you.
All right.
Awesome. Christina, what's going well in your week?
A lot of things. A lot of things. I made cookies today. We'll take that one.
What kind of cookies?
Granny's gingerbread snap.
Oh, I love those. I love those. Okay. So as we're vamping up here, thank you everyone for joining. This is Elements of Wellness, and we have lovingly and excitedly started doing these live trainings 3 trainings ago, which is 6 weeks. And the reason why we're doing them is because we want to start informing about what are the myths, what are the facts about what is health, what is cellular health, what is hormonal health, how you can impact your healing, your recovery, your overall well-being, because there is a lot of misinformation out there that we just shake our head at. And we decided that this year we are getting loud. So thank you everyone for joining. Well, let's dive in because today is going to be kind of a recap of the last 3 trainings and even deeper regarding what we learned over the last 3 weeks. So if you missed any of the weeks, this is a great week to be catching up. So transforming your health and life, putting it all together. What does that mean? What are we doing? So the very first training that we did was myths and facts about water. So without adequate hydration, our body will feel more pain. Water is to us what oil is to a car. So if we are lacking hydration, which should be half of our body weight in ounces. Fallon, I saw your big, huge water bottle. Woot, woot.
Yes.
Okay, so half our body weight in ounces in water. Now, some of you may be like, I'm over 100 ounces. Please don't drink more than 100 ounces of water per day. Then we're getting into water toxicity, but water is our best detoxifier as well. So again, half our body weight in water to help starting eliminate body pain. Okay. So if we are dehydrated, we will hold on to bloat. We will hold on to weight. So really important that we do drink adequate amount, because if we don't, then again, we're going to gain weight. We're going to bloat. We're going to feel more body pain. It is really, really important for the brain because it is 90% water. So without adequate hydration, we have brain fog, we get decision fatigue, we feel exhausted, and all of the things encompassing on that, going to work, making decisions, lost it there. So that's all going to be exasperated. Okay, let's just say that all
Have
the
you had
negative
enough
things
water?
are going to be exasperated. I did. I downed 16 ounces before I jumped on the call today. Uh, Our nutrients do not have the adequate conductor to be fully absorbed into the blood cell where it's needed if we do not have adequate amounts of water. So that means that our nutrients are not getting into our cells. If our nutrients are not getting into our cells, then we've got no power. We've got no accelerator. We've got no gas in the tank. It's just flowing free willy-nilly into the serum of our blood, but actually not getting into our blood where we need it most. And then where our water comes from and where it is stored matters. We covered how when we choose to drink out of a plastic bottle, and we buy those bottled water all the time, we are consuming at least a credit card worth of microplastics every day. So, how we store our water is super important, and then where it comes from. I'm a big proponent if I don't have to spend money on water, I won't. So, I actually have a really good water filter that I can use my tap water in, and it filters out the formaldehyde, it filters out the copper, not the copper.
Chlorine.
Joy, help me out here.
Chlorine. Yes,
Chlorine,
chlorine.
fluoride. I don't
Chlorine,
think
yes.
formaldehyde. Fluoride.
No.
No, formaldehyde is in our water. It has been tested. So fluoride as well is in our water. So there is a lot of things that get into our city water.
Funny because me and my dad were actually just talking about this and he wasn't sure. So you said that you have a filter that actually filters out the fluoride because he didn't think that there was ones that filtered that out. So are there specific ones that you got to look for that?
Yeah, so I use Nikon, so not Nikon, but Nikon.
Okay.
And it is filtering out 90% of fluoride. So fluoride is one of the most hardest ones to get rid of out of your water, but you can do it.
Okay, perfect.
And they have been around since at least 1998. And that's minusing the 2 years that I've been in alternative medicine because like that's when I first started hearing about that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So they've been around. They're not a pop-up. They've been around for a long time and they've been proven. So and it also magnetizes the water because we did talk about how water has memory. And when we strip it of all of its minerals through certain filtering, then what it will do is it will leach minerals out of the body instead of like helping minerals go into the body. So it magnetizes the water as well. So it erases its memory.
Can I quickly
Okay.
correct that it is a credit card worth of plastics that is being ingested on average per week, not per day.
Oh.
For those of us that are using plastic water bottles and not stainless steel or glass, and that's all of the microplastics. So it's things that are in all of our shampoos and conditioners and anything, our food storage, those kinds of things all add up to. And of course, our water consumption, if we are storing that in plastic containers, is going to add to that total. So
Thank
just
you.
wanted to quickly correct so that we're not out there giving misinformation.
We're supposed to be Mythbuster here, not. Also-
My water hasn't kicked in yet, so
I noticed.
I get a pass.
And I also wanted to add to that like our brains actually don't feel pain. So what is feeling pain when we get those dehydration headaches is the dura that surrounds the brain, that is like a really soft, spongy muscle, and that muscle feels pain, and then so we get the headaches from that.
Enzymes. So this 4 weeks ago, we covered the myths and facts about enzymes. So we are born with only a certain amount of metabolic enzymes. Some people have more, some have less, depending on the health of our parents. Okay, so this is genetic. Think of it as a trust account. If we constantly take withdrawals and don't consume foods with high quality enzymes will deplete that trust, never to have it again. So then that's when we need to be supplementing on a regular basis. Antibiotics actually impede our ability to maintain our enzymes. They actually kill our digestive systems, and this has compounding effects. So Joy, this one, I really want to hand the floor over to you because this one was most of your talk.
I feel like you put it into like really comprehensive, very simple terminology. It is a bank that you were born with. It is a withdrawal only, so it is a trust account. There's needs for ongoing enzymes if you have difficulty, absorbing, digesting things that are amylase or protease heavy, so your proteins, all those things. So we're not just relying on our metabolic enzymes to digest our food. Anything heated over 114 degrees Fahrenheit does lose its enzymatic quality, so it still has its vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, but the enzymes are essentially the food's ability to break itself down. So when the food loses that ability, then our bodies still require that to happen. And so what happens is our body will send amylase, protease, cellulase, those four major ones to aid in the digestion. And if we are using those for digestion, we cannot use them in times of dis-ease, like any metabolic disorders or autoimmune deficiencies, when we would actually need those banks within our kidneys and our livers and the pancreas and all that good stuff. So using our trust account to have a coffee or a cheeseburger a day, or as much as I love them, French fries, probably not the wisest use of your inheritance. And so I would suggest purchasing a house with it instead, like i.e. fighting dis-ease within the body.
Yeah, and if you are going to have those French fries and stuff, pair it with cucumber, pair it with like something raw that is high in enzymes to help you digest things. So
And water.
always think,
Cucumber's very high in water. Enzymes for life. They literally are the life force of all the foods and within us and around us. So they're incredibly important.
they are. I love that. Okay, so this is a handout that I designed after 2 weeks ago. We talked about how to have a power night. So as you can see that there is a wheel, and my wheel is partially blocked because I have all of you people, lovely people that are attending. But as you can see, at certain times of the day, certain systems are working even better, right? So at 7 a.m., this is the stomach, and we want to ensure that we start the metabolism. We want the body working. So even if you're grabbing an olive, even if you're grabbing like a almond, my kids always joke with me, it's like, it's okay, mom ate last week. She had an almond. I eat all the time. I eat all the time. They're just not home when they see me eating. So it is like where our body really loves to thrive is in these times of the day. And when we're creating our power night versus our power morning, we actually set ourselves up for success. We set ourselves up for a good night's sleep. We set our body, our detox centers that are supposed to be working when we're sleeping, up for success. So always set your bedtime first. So if you want lights out at 10 o'clock, work backwards. What do you need to do from 10 o'clock backwards in order to be ready for bed? So if you have kids, if you have work responsibilities, if you have spousal responsibilities or house responsibilities, what do you need to have in place so that you can have a relaxing evening? Because we also talked about how it's really important to do a power down, and it's not just a power down hour. Some people, we talked about gourmet power nighters and we talked about fast food power nighters. And the difference is the gourmet power nighters need a really long bedtime routine. It's kind of like dealing with a toddler, where it's like you say goodnight to all the stuffies. You say goodnight to everyone in every single picture that you see going up to bed. You do the body massage, you do the bath time, you do the snack. Obviously not in that order because we're going to bed. The goal is bed.
You don't give your kids a snack before bed anymore, right, Jody?
No, I do not give my kids a snack before bed because the whole purpose of going to bed is to sleep. And if we're going to give nourishment, nourishment is energy. So don't give the kids energy before the bed. Feed them well before bed, like a few hours before bed. And then also like just get to know your body so that if you need a gourmet night and you need to have a slow bedtime routine, you do that. If you're a fast food power night person like I am, it's like I have my shower, that's 10 minutes. I do my nighttime skincare with no microplastics because mine is stored in glass. And then I go to bed. It's done. So I turn the electronics off at least an hour before I go to bed because we discussed how EMFs affect our ability to produce melatonin. And in my hormonal study, not my hormonal studies, in my hormonal test that I offer, we test for melatonin. And if you're not making melatonin, you're not sleeping. So it's actually not a perimenopause or postmenopause thing. It could actually be a melatonin issue, or it could be a progesterone issue that is causing you to wake up at night, not sleep, or have those power naps and then wake up. So it's really important that we get our sleep because then our body will detox. Our gallbladder, our liver, our lungs, and our large intestines all love to function best in that nighttime sleep period. Okay. Does anybody want to add any more information to that? Joy, we'll start with you.
I think having really strict boundaries around that is something you're really strong at. So if you need to put a boundary in place that involves blocking your sister after 8 p.m., we would 10 out of 10 support that and understand that. I also I also think that the times that we eat and breaking the fast, I know you had started with talking about breakfast and the metabolism, turning that metabolism on. Metabolism is defined as the sum of all your energy systems, and it requires fuel or energy to run. So you give it energy so that it can turn on for you. The concept of eating to lose weight seems to be very foreign to many generations. I know we were all taught to like eat less, limit the calories. And so if you skip breakfast and you feel hungry, apparently that makes us skinnier. Unfortunately, you're not turning your metabolism on, which is the sum of all your energy systems as defined. That's what I would add.
I love that. Christina, I see you itching. So go ahead.
I'm just wondering, like, when you're starving in the middle of the night, I know that's a different hormonal thing that's going on about like you're just about to get ready for bed and the hunger is keeping you awake. Yeah, eat more during the day, Christina, but what would be a good snack to like tide you over without spiking your energy before bed?
A tablespoon of coconut oil.
Gross.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
I would actually suggest like 2 ounces of protein paired with a healthy fat. So 2 ounces is not a whole lot, and because it takes longer to digest, and then the healthy fat is what will make you feel satisfied. But also use the circadian rhythm handout of like, what time are you getting hungry? So what systems is that affecting? So if you're waking up at 1 a.m. and that's your liver working, and that's it saying, hey, I need energy so that I can actually do my job. That's really crucial evidence. And I know, like, for me, when I get my hormones tested, well, when I do my hormonal test, my liver is always overworking, always. Like, it's been this way since the dawn of time, I think, because anytime I did my live cell, liver came back as well, where it's like, what's going on with your liver, right? And I was young. And so I know that I was probably born this way. So having a liver support is probably always going to be needed in my life. But definitely look at the times of days where you're starting to exhibit symptoms, when you're hitting that 3 o'clock wall, when you feel the most tired or when you feel the most energized. Look at your circadian rhythm and see what systems are functioning best, and see what symptoms or systems need a little bit more support. Enzymes and hormones. So digestive enzymes like amylase, lipase, and protease break down carbohydrates, fats, proteins, respectively, into the smaller molecules that can be absorbed into the bloodstream. The gut microbiome, the community of microorganisms in the gut, also influence hormone levels. Gut microbes can produce enzymes that affect hormone metabolism and can also influence the levels of sex hormones. So when women experience a loss in sex drive, okay, this can be a liver issue, or it can actually be a colon issue. So if we go into the phase 2 metabolites, this is what I actually see when I do hormonal labs, okay? This is how well your colon works. So if your colon is not working correctly, or if your pro and pre and postbiotics that you swear by comes back and you're flat out bottomed, or you're lower, not flat out bottom, but you're on the lower end of the scale, that tells me that your colon is actually not doing the job that it needs. And you're actually going to be really high in yeast activity, and you're going to be really high in parasitic activity, as well as most likely have a leaky gut. Now, I can't see that in the urine, but if you guys need verification, that's where Joy comes in, and she does live cell analysis. And you are able to see all of that in the blood. So they really do go hand in hand. This person, however, has an amazing gut. I could recommend gut probiotics to her till the cows come home, and it won't help her liver, which is like pedal to the metal. So we can treat the gut all we want, but really all we've got is really expensive urine then, because she doesn't need it. What she needs is the liver, which is phase one metabolites. And your phase one metabolites tell me how well you're detoxing your estrogens. All our hormones are detoxified through our liver. So knowing our circadian rhythm, supporting ourselves with water and our enzyme activity is crucial, because the body will rob enzymes from the liver to digest food. So this is actually really important. I want to know what pathways you're detoxifying on. So the 2OH is the most safest pathways. The other pathways are more genotoxic and have more duality. So really good for bone growth, really bad for cancer growth. So I want to make sure that there is balance there and that we're not overexerting one or the other. So this is what hormonal testing can show you. And this is what blood testing does not do for women. And this is why blood testing, the standard blood testing for women, does not work when it comes to hormonal imbalance. So imbalances in the gut health, such as I can't say that word. Joy
Predisposition?
judges.
Say it one more time.
Dysbiosis is an imbalance in the gut microbiome. Okay, this can lead to hormonal imbalances, potentially affecting estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and other hormones. The liver plays a crucial role in removing excess estrogen from the body. If the liver is not functioning correctly, too much estrogen can accumulate. So what happens is the liver has no choice but to recirculate used up hormones back into the system. So this is how we get into estrogen dominance. This is endometriosis. This is PCOS. This is Hashimoto's. This is estrogen dominance that leads to cancer in our peri and menopausal years. So this is actually really crucial, and knowing what pathways we're using and what pathways we need to like kind of avoid and force another way is really important.
I think actually making note of that distinct difference from what you can see versus what I can see within the different testing that we specialize in, I can see that it's happening and that there is an imbalance somewhere, and this could be the cause of it, versus you can see which pathway it's affecting directly. So they work really synergistically together as far as that visual that you're able to see, like, oh, this is what's happening and this is why, and this is how it shows up in my blood.
I want to do a caveat to that is like, yes, we can recommend supplements. We can recommend all the supplements that we want in the world. But if we do not have the life that matches what the goal is to what we want the supplements to do, we can only take you so far. And you're going to hit that glass ceiling time and time and time again. And this is where life coaching comes in. This is where health coaching comes in sometimes, where we have to look at what you know about health, what got you here, and then what can we do to up-level that. And sometimes that does mean changing your beliefs. Sometimes that does mean changing your habits. And it's not just about like healthy habits. When I talk about beliefs and habits, I talk about like lifestyle. You know, how do you put boundaries in with your kids? How do you put boundaries in with your work? What do you do for a power night? What do you do for self-care versus self-love? Because those are two different things in my world. So it's all about how you take care of yourself and what you want your goals to be. So because we can supplement till the cows come home, and it will not make a difference if you're not creating the life to match what those goals are.
I think it's very simplified where we say we cannot supplement our way out of poor lifestyle and unhealthy choices for us. And sometimes we don't know that the choices that we're making are actually unhealthy for us until we do get those DNA results back. And maybe you thrive more on a high protein diet and you've, been experimenting with a vegan or vegetarian diet. I mean, I'm calling myself out. Or maybe you've been super high protein carnivore and you actually function better on more of a Mediterranean diet, like style. I'm not recommending any diet over another. It's all to do with you. So you may not even know that those are poor choices for you. And we can't supplement you out of poor choices for you.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
like taking the vitamin B12 shots as recommended by my doctor to treat my borderline narcolepsy. And turns out I can't actually process it. But
Mhm.
the hormone testing and the DNA testing said, hey, you can't process vitamin B12. It makes you crazy. But the doctors looked at it and said, you're really tired. We'll give you B12. Sometimes the choices we make, we don't know we're actually hurting ourselves. We don't know what we don't know.
Absolutely. So now that we've totally gone down that rabbit hole, I hope you guys enjoyed it. So then we start looking into the ratios. So when I look at this, and I will be honest, okay, so there is information on here that I've written in red, and this is mine. This is mine, so I will speak candidly about this. So I know that I have an MTHFR mutation, which is the body's ability to detox. It's one of the biggest detox gene centers there are, okay? So my E1 and E2, these are great estrogens to have. I want to see this higher. This is fantastic. Ideally, we see them equal. So the bottom row is ideal. The top row is me. And based on my results, this is actually not a bad thing that I'm higher in E1 and E2 because those are the safest estrogens that you could possibly have. E3 is what helps us get pregnant, and I'm not looking to do that. So that's fine that it's low. The 2OH is the safest detox pathway that you can use. Ideally, we want this 73%. I'm at 82, so I am not mad over this, okay? The 4OH, this is the most genotoxic pathway. Nobody is perfect here. Everybody fluctuates a little bit. Ideally, we want 7%. So again, I'm not mad here. I'm at 8%. I don't want to see this going higher, but if it was a 9%, I still wouldn't be mad. And then we get into the 16A. So this is the pathway that has duality. So bad for bone or bad for cancer growth, good for bone growth. Okay. Ideally, we want this at 20%. I'm at 10. This is lower. This is potential for carcinogenic and osteoporosis. Okay. So I'm not saying that I'm going to have that. It is a pathway that I am going down. And if I do not correct this pathway, then maybe 7, 10, 15 years from now, I'm going to have a diagnosis. Okay. That's one thing about myself and Joy is that we cannot diagnose. We are not doctors. I am board certified drugless practitioner and I am board certified hormonal coach, which means everything from puberty to postmenopause. But I cannot say this is endometriosis. This is PCOS. I can say this is a pathway, but that's the difference between alternative medicine and Western medicine. Alternative medicine looks for pathways that we are utilizing. And can we pause them? Can we slow them down or can we reverse them? Let's see what we can do. Western medicine looks for things when the wheels have fallen off the bus, and then they can diagnose you. So then the speedometer graph, okay? So ideally, we want to be in the green. I'm in the red. So normally what I would do as a professional is I would say, you know what? Go see your doctor, get some blood tests because there's something that I am not seeing here and I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So clients will go and get their blood tests. Their doctor will say, well, you're good, or hey, you're really low in iron. I don't even know how you're standing right now. So let's give you that. So it really depends on what comes up in your blood test. I will obviously give a methylating detoxifying supplement protocol, but I'm not worried at this point. If she dips lower, if I dip lower, then I'm getting concerned and I'm asking more serious questions to my doctor. I'm getting my live blood done and saying, is there something that we're not seeing? Is there something that I don't see? Is there something we're missing? So we really do become the investigators when it comes to our own health. And that's crucial when we're taking responsibility for our health is we do have to be the investigator. I can say that I am an expert in hormonal health. I can say that I am an expert in grief and trauma recovery and healing. And I am an expert in knowing how the body heals with 30 years of experience. Joy is an expert in her own right with 30 plus years of experience in alternative health. Christina is almost an expert. They say 10 years of study and she's 8. So she's 2 years away, right? You can surround yourself with experts, but if you're not asking the questions so that you can understand, and if you're not doing your own research and going, oh, okay, this makes sense, and this makes sense, and oh, this is validated, then you're really giving your health to somebody else and saying, do with it what you will. And I'm not okay with that personally. And I really hope that the people watching and the people that are here today are not okay with that because you are the expert on your own body. Okay.
Can I just simplify really quickly? So our body works to bring everything back to a carbon state. Every single thing that's in our environment, everything that is in that we ingest, all of those things, we're working to bring those back to a carbon state. We do those through certain digestion, certain hormone pathways. And so these are the hormone pathways that Jody's actually talking about and which areas those are being processed through to actually bring that back to a carbon net zero so that you can process that and live healthy. When we're seeing those numbers, not necessarily, Jody might not be mad about it, but maybe it's getting blocked here and it's just got a little bit of a hiccup. That can be an indication that something isn't being processed quite right. And we need to look at assisting the body out of the deep end of the pool. That's where supplementation or a change in food comes into play. So there's all these different pathways. That's essentially the goal of every one of those pathways is just the different ways that our body supports us in bringing that back to a carbon net zero. Make sense? Oversimplified, but so
Love
anyway.
that. Love that. Thank you.
Okay.
And I just stopped sharing my screen there because I do have to change the view of my gallery. Otherwise, I am not going to be able to see the next slide. So now that we're there, we will play again. All right. So what do we do? How do we go deeper with this even more? So now that we've done the test, now what? So we start with nutrition. When we are working with clients, that is when something's wrong.
Let food be thy medicine.
Right? Okay, so let's compare it to plants. Okay, so when a plant is not doing well, what do? We play with the soil, we fertilize it, we take it out, we repot it, we play with it, we make sure that it's getting what it needs. Our nutrition is our soil. That is where our roots are laid out. So that is where we always start you. It doesn't matter. We've worked with vegans, carnivores, vegetarians. We've worked with people that are in the alternative field. I talked about Sarah last training. She was in it for 20 years and she's like, I know what you're doing. And I was sweating bullets. And I'm like, I know she knows. She's going to find me out. But she learned so much about herself. So even bringing you back to the very basics. And maybe you're like my client, Laura, who can't eat peppers. The moment she eats peppers, her brain fog, her fatigue, everything goes sky high. Peppers are healthy food. We are told that it is a healthy food and high in antioxidants, but they may not be healthy for you. So what we do is we bring you back to the very basics of nutrition and we figure out what works for you. Then we add the supplements if needed once we have your result. So we figure out your nutrition while we're waiting for your test results to come in. We think that we know what foods to consume as good nutrition, but even the beneficial foods can have adverse effect. We first figure out what type and when your body likes to consume its protein. This is an easy win. This is immediately when we start increasing your energy. Within 4 days, we know what proteins you do best on and what times of day your body likes to consume them. So whether they're animal protein, whether they're plant protein, or whether they're low protein, we're going to know. And your body is the best indicator of what works for you. So let's play with it and let's give it a voice. Then we start a slow elimination of inflammatory foods. So even the healthy ones can cause inflammation. So that is the second week. The third week, we complete 1 week of only consuming highly healing, beneficial food. That's it. My brother-in-law said he got to eat boring chicken all day long because there's no sauces, there's very limited herbs and spices, because even those can be contaminated with pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, and they get into our system and they cause inflammation. So this is about putting out all the fires inside the internal body so that the brain can actually start looking outside into our world and going, oh, you got this problem? Let me help you solve that. Oh, you got this? Let me help you solve that. Oh, this is easy. Let's reprioritize that. So building all of these building blocks where we talked about power nights and knowing enzymes and food qualities, all of a sudden that becomes really easy for the brain to start understanding and implementing. So the fourth week, we begin a reintroduction now that the body knows how to feel good. It will give almost instant results of when it does not feel good. So weight gain, brain fog, headaches, joint pain, body pain, irritability, brain fog, fatigue.
Can you say brain fog?
Yes. Sorry. Brain fog. Sorry.
Definitely brain fog.
Brain fog is like so common in women. And we get told that we have depression. We get told we have anxiety. We get tired to decrease our stress. And really, all of that are just pat answers. And I get really angry over that because it's just a pat answer. We should not be suffering as women with that. We don't have to suffer with that. Night sweats, we don't have to suffer with that. Hot flashes, we don't have to suffer with that. So I get very passionate when it comes to that. So yes, we'll say brain fog one more time. So, and then in week 5, we should have your hormonal results and we can see all the things that we're currently addressing, because now that we know what foods, we can go, oh, well, we're already addressing this because we're doing this. Oh, we're already addressing this because we're doing this. So then it's less change over time, and we can actually really laser in versus hitting it all at once. And you get really overwhelmed and you're wondering how you're going to implement it with your family, with your job, with your spouse. We take you step by step by step so it doesn't feel like a whole lot of changes all at once. We start addressing things such as the adrenals and the cortisol, the colon, the liver, the thyroid, the melatonin, organic acids, and the circadian rhythm. That's all in after the first 5 weeks. So supplements are meant to support the changes you're making nutritionally and in life. If the life and nutrition do not match what the supplements are supporting, you might as well flush your money down the toilet. You'll have really expensive urine. Anything that you would like to add on that, Joy?
No, I think it's good. I just want to say brain fog one more time.
And Jody gets thrown under the bus again.
Oh, come on.
Okay, so I love that Christina brought up DNA testing. Now, we've touched a little bit about this over the last 6 weeks, but we haven't gone into a whole lot. So I firmly believe that tests don't guess. So we can be taking all of the products, okay? So you go to your health food store and you take the adrenals and you take the thyroid stuff and you take the colon and you take the liver. But if the body does not have the genetic support to break those products down, or the nutrition that we're consuming down, we might as well be taking a harmful ingredients to increase our toxic overload. By activating our genes that can be woken up or sent off to work, we ensure that we are getting the maximum absorption from anything that we're putting into our mouths, whether it be nutrients or supplements. As we learned with the urine test, just because it's a supplement and it helped our friend doesn't mean it will help you. And my biggest one is, let's take ashwagandha. That's a key word right now in my feed. And I'm like, you don't even know. If you don't have estrogen dominance, then ashwagandha is actually going to harm you versus benefit you. It's going to cause a massive hormonal disruption. So, and if you have estrogen dominance and you start taking DIM, fantastic. But how long do you take that for before it starts causing you the opposite problem? So this is why testing, not guessing regularly, is really important, because our body is not stagnant. It is changing all the time. And if we're not continually allowing it to communicate with us, then we don't know. So the same thing happens when it comes to daily supplements. They could work for a friend, they could work for a family member, but they might not work for you. Melatonin is another favorite one of mine. I had a client, so normal levels are 17 to 84 in the urine. I had a client, she was in the 3,000s, and she was supplementing every night with melatonin, and she wondered why she had short-term memory loss and couldn't retain any new information. Studies actually don't know if that short-term memory loss comes back once you stop taking it. So just because it's natural doesn't mean it's good for you. And just because it worked for somebody else doesn't mean that our body can actually absorb it, because we might be lacking the key genes to help us absorb it with. So supplement. Oh, I read that.
Can I add to the
Yeah, go ahead.
melatonin?
Yeah.
I know that some people, and maybe Christina's still present, but I see her here. So some people actually have night terrors when you put them on melatonin, and it will increase their anxiety levels, it'll increase their stress levels, and it can lead to sleep paralysis and all kinds of things. So you're giving your kids melatonin to help them calm down at night. Another fun fact is that melatonin is a cousin to valerian root. We use valerian root to calm cortisol levels. If melatonin gives you nightmares, you can't take valerian root at nighttime because it'll actually jazz you up. It'll act like a vitamin B or an antidepressant, that like a Vyvanse. Whereas if you take it in the morning, that actually helps your cortisol levels and it de-stresses you during the day. That has to do with your gene mutations. So, and the only way you know how you methylate those things. So, I mean, you go to the health food store and you pull off this bottle and you're like, oh, I need melatonin to sleep. It works for Joe. The other thing about the supplementation that you're receiving over the counter is that our rules in Canada are such that you can advertise 1 part per billion as 100% vitamin E. So you have 1 part per billion that's 100%. Then the rest of the parts could still be vitamin E, but they're not that 100%. They're not the organic. They're not any of these other things. Our rules and regulations around packaging, you have very expensive urine, and what you're taking could actually be going down a toxic pathway as per your DNA and your hormone testing. So Jody, move on to
Lovely.
DNA. Here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Let's get into it.
We made it.
We're passionate here. Okay. So what you're seeing, so I work with a company that does DNA testing, okay? They are regulated by HIPAA, which is a privacy standard in the States, medical privacy. And they are also regulated by CLIA, which is Information Privacy Act in the States. So that's actually really hard to get. Now, we've heard of 23andMe and Ancestry where, somebody committed a murder. The police went and asked for their DNA results to pin them at the crime. They were there. They got found guilty because of that.
And
that's
they were
not
also
going to happen.
Sold 3 days ago, 23andMe. So all of the information that was stored there. So that's a fun fact.
Nucleogenic cannot do that. So they are so heavily regulated that it doesn't matter who comes knocking at their door. They cannot give that information to anybody. The government, the medical authorities, police in the States, nobody can access this information. So this is one reason, just one reason why I love working with them, because they're never going to sell your information to sell third parties. They're never going to breach your privacies. This doesn't affect any of your health insurance or life insurance or anything like that. So what you're seeing here is 2 out of 4 sample DNA results that they give you. So they do a healthy aging report, which is what you see in yellow with all the colorful bubbles. They do a healthy weight report, which is what you see on the right. So, and then they do a healthy sport report. So if you are a personal trainer, if you're really heavily involved into fitness, this is going to tell you what movement is best for you. And sometimes it says you can't do the HIIT classes. Sometimes it says you can't do the yoga classes, you prefer HIIT. So it really depends on your genetics. And why not amp up your results by working your body the way that it was genetically designed? And then the 4th report is your skin report. Now, as an esthetician, I really like this report. It gives some really good validation and information, but it's nothing that is going to be earth-shattering. So where I like to focus on is the healthy weight report. And then most recently in the last year and a half is the healthy weight management report. So what you're seeing with the bubbles is if you're a 0 or a green, your parents were amazing here. They didn't have any genetic SNPs, we call them, or mutations, and you're perfect here. So this is great. If you're a yellow, this means that one of your parents, because it doesn't tell you whether it's from your mom or your dad, it doesn't tell you whether you're adopted, nothing like that. it tells you one of your parents has this gene. So in the sample report that I pulled, it's the CYP1. So this is a healthy blood pressure. This means that they're going to be prone to this pathway genetically. So what can we do to support them? Okay. And then if you're red, that means both parents did not do well in giving you this gene. And actually, so this is the vitamin D one. For example, many of us are from Canada here, and we don't get a lot of sunlight in the winter time, okay? Now, this person's a 2. This means that they absorb 70% less vitamin D from the sun than if somebody was a green or a yellow. Now, also, vitamin D is a hormone. It is not a vitamin. It is responsible for 500 different systems in the body. If you genetically are predisposed not to have this gene working, that's a problem. It only tests the genes that can be activated. They don't even worry about the genes that cannot be activated because we can't support them nutritionally or supplementally. And they custom design a supplement made for you. So all of the multivitamins that you can get off the counter, if you have an MTHFR, which this person does not, but if you do, then you can't take anything synthetic. Synthetic foods, synthetic clothing, chemicals in your home, such as cleaning products, anything like that, will actually overload your detox centers. And it actually crosses the blood-brain barrier faster and more easily. So MTHFR is a major detox route. MTRR is another major detoxification route. This person, I call it a sister gene with the MTHFR. This person has a really hard time methylating. This affects the liver. So this is actually going to show up in the urine. So even though it says healthy heart, MTRR actually has a huge role in how we detox. And if we've got a problem detoxing, how hard does our heart and our internal organs have to work to clear everything out? So really important to know this information. And then the genetic weight report. So here, this is where the life coaching comes in. This is where the health coaching comes in, because once we figure out what foods you do well on, we get your DNA results. And for this person, I can see that they have a caffeine metabolizer gene. This gene is not just related to caffeine. This gene is actually related to breast cancer, and it can be traced back through research. So it's really important that we support this gene the best way that we can, and we look at your detox pathways and how can we correct this. So dopamine and addictive behaviors. So people that have this gene are more likely to have addictive tendencies. Food can be used as a drug. We all know this. We turned to food during COVID when that's the only thing we were allowed to access. It gave dopamine, and food is supposed to give dopamine. We're supposed to enjoy the hell out of our food. It's supposed to give us feel-good hormones. But with this person, I'm going to say, you know what? Let's increase your proteins. Let's increase your healthy fats, because we need that dopamine, and those healthy fats are going to ensure that you feel satisfied and satiated, and wow, that was a good meal. So we're going to really focus on playing with their plate to make sure that they are having an experience with their food so that we can actually get on top of things. And then the FTO gene. This is layman's terms, and this is what the medical terms call it, is the fat gene. Okay, so I've had clients where there are 2s straight down the line, and this is typically morbidly obese. So with the FTO genes, there are a lot of things that we can do to help support nutritionally. And this is where calorie in, calorie out really makes the difference. This is where we're looking at whether they feel hungry more of the time, right? So that's also another gene that's affected. So knowing these things, we can custom tailor a program that is designed for you, not only cellularly and what's going on in the moment with your hormones and with your lifestyle, but now we can get into your genetics and how you were born and what we can do to support you so that like these pathways that are so entrenched that might be taking you down the wrong way, we can actually turn the wheel and we can get you out of those trenches.
I just
Anything
want to
that
say
you'd like to.
yeah, it's really unfair that I got the FTO gene and you did not. And it's like,
Sorry, not sorry.
yeah, that's super. And it was really interesting to me to see the variance between even two siblings, right? That we have so completely different DNA results. And as such, we have very different supplementation combinations that then come into play. So sorry, go on.
Yeah.
Just wanted
No,
to say
that's okay.
I was upset about that. I'm mad about that.
You're mad about that? Okay.
I mean, I'm not mad I didn't get the FTHR or whatever, but I'm a little mad about that.
Well, I'll give you 5 minutes.
Okay.
So what happens after 5 weeks? So now we have your hormone results, we have your DNA results, we've figured out the nutrition. So this is where we get into lasering in, okay? We've got your nutrition built out. What does you harm? What is beneficial? When your body likes to consume its nutrients. So sleep should be improving now. Overwhelm is improving. Memory is improving just because of what we implemented in the first few weeks. For some, weight loss is happening. The DNA and urine is great to see the pathways where we explained before and where permanent support is needed. I'll talk about one client, love her to death, known her for the last 20 years. Last summer, she came to me and she's like, Jody, I'm borderline morbidly obese. I'm borderline liver disease. I'm borderline cardiac disease. I blow up like a balloon 3 times my size. When I walk outside, I am limited to 5 foods. What do you have for me? And I took her through this step. And because she was more severe, because she was on those borderlines, it took more than just 3 months. So we worked really avidly with her for 6 months. She got retested by her doctor. She went down 16 points in her liver enzymes. She's no longer at risk for liver disease. She went down in points for her cardiac. So she's no longer at risk for cardiac disease. She lost 30 pounds in 6 months and she's still going. So we know with her that what we're doing is right. I can tell you she is now exercising without body pain. She is able to go outside without blowing up like a balloon. And we're super excited to see what the summertime has because that is her like trigger period. This works when it's designed for you on a cellular genetic level. It leaves very little room for mistakes to happen. So now we start lasering in with life. Okay. Life coaching is really unique to every single person. So I don't run your life. Joy doesn't run your life. Nobody you know runs your life. You were the best advocate for your life. But do you need help with power nights? Do you need help with calendar blocking to make life more predictable so the brain doesn't have to work so hard? Do you need different tools in your toolbox to help you deal with stress? Because we don't know what we don't know. We think we're doing the right choices until we learn better. So do you need to put in supports for yourself? So habits dictate behavior. Change a habit over 3 months and you begin to change your life. Joy, is there anything? Yes, Joy raised a hand.
There's often times that we'll see that things are going really well, but we need to adjust and adapt and maybe move more aggressively in a certain direction. But I have not yet hit a client, although I'm welcome to a challenge. And I do think like with the client that Jody was referencing before, like the very first time I saw her, I did not see her in context for where she had come from. So what I saw in that moment was, oh my gosh, this is really bad. And so going through, and then, I mean, her results with her medical practitioners and stuff were so much better. With her hormone practitioners, they're so much better. What I'm seeing is the snapshot, and I'm saying, like, we need to go more aggressively. When she came back to see me 6 weeks later, we talked about how far she had come even before she came to see me. And I didn't have that concept. So I know Christina had said sometimes seeing the live cell as you progress through the program is beneficial. Sometimes the before and after is beneficial for people depending on the state of overwhelm that they're in, because this is a lot of information. And so there is also that context of like, there's already been improvements before I came into the picture. And then also recognizing that for every year that you've been sick, we can anticipate, or in a state of dis-ease within the body, we can anticipate about a month to finally correct that and then move into a season of thriving. So if you've been degeneratively ill or chronically ill for 20 years, we're looking at 20 months before we get you where you would like to be ultimately, and then thriving from there. And that's making those micro adjustments and hitting you, as Jody so delicately put it, adjusting and adapting in real time to see that.
And Joy, we're on to your slide now. So why don't you just keep going?
Oh, so this is a really terrible slide as an example. However, it's a really good one. The blood tells us in real time what's going on and when we are stacked like this, we know that the nutrients have a harder time getting into the cells because there is no cell walls for the nutrients to actually adhere onto. So when the blood is actually more like an oil than a viscous water. So the heart has to work harder to pump. We have little micro clots and we're using more energy to pump that blood through all the systems. The other thing is this affects our liver. The liver has to basically separate, like a big load of laundry coming out of the dryer that you forgot to put, vinegar into, or your dryer sheets if you're still using those. And we can talk about that. But if you've forgotten the fabric softener, however you use it, the system has to pull all of those pieces apart in order to clean the blood and then replicate it and then deposit it back in. So now the liver is working really hard. We can see a target cell, so we know that there's some iron issues. We can see bacterial cultures. This affects our colon because we're not digesting our foods properly because the cells can't even pick up the nutrients. So where does it go?
So we know that hydration enzymes are crucial to help force the nutrients into the cell. The heart, like Joy explained, is then affected because it is like pumping clots. It's pumping oil, okay? And this affects the colon, causing more parasitic activity and yeast buildup in the system.
So, and I can also say like what I am seeing there in those coins being stacked is definitely it's rouleau. There's stress either in the body, in your mind. And then as the slide actually progresses to that bottom left, I don't know if Jody can go back, but that's actually where the cells are so clumped and conjoined together. That's actually a breeding ground for parasites. So that's just bacterial cultures that are fornicating within you. And thank goodness this is no longer in you. It's on a slide. So you can see cholesterol crystals. I know they show up as a bright blue on my screen. Protein linkage. So those little balloons that are kind of linked together, that's when you have your undigested proteins. This can be caused by a hormone pathway. It can be caused because you don't genetically resonate with different proteins, whether it be animal or protein. When we can see what's happening in real time and we use this knowledge combined with the pathways that are being used according to your hormonal testing, genetic testing, then we know what will always be needed to support. Some people just don't digest proteins and they forever need a digestive enzyme. Whether or not they're eating heated or raw, they just need that.
That's me. That's me. I need a protein enzyme, and I was probably born with it because from the time we were doing live cell, I always showed protein linkage, and it was just like, okay, protein enzyme. And as much as I fight it, I'm like, check it now. Check it now. It doesn't, when I don't take it, we see the difference, right? So just genetically born with.
And you also gravitated as a child to more of a vegetarian lifestyle or like, and we noticed with your cycles, not to throw you under the bus, but with your cycles as you became an adolescent, if you cut out meat a week before your cycle happened, you had way less PMS. So, and it doesn't mean
and way
that
less
you were
cramping, like pain.
way less pain, way less brain fog, way less moodiness, like all of the things. But that didn't mean that you were destined to be a vegetarian. It meant that you were struggling with your proteins and you needed help just because of your DNA. So anyway, moving on.
Yeah. So we've covered the first 5 weeks. We've covered a little bit of like what we do in that first 5 weeks. And now what happens with the rest of it. So we've got your urine results. We've got your DNA results. We may even have your lifestyle results, pending if you opt to do that. This is where supplements may be recommended. For therapeutic correction, we recommend at least 3 months. So what we teach is an unhealthy cell cannot replicate a healthy cell. It will replicate an unhealthy cell. And then what happens over the period of average 28-day lifespan is it gets sicker and it replicates a sicker, unhealthy cell. This is how we get into degeneration. We're looking for regeneration. This is what our initial training is actually all about, is to regenerate. So we always look at things from a therapeutic program, and that takes a minimum of 3 months because we want 3 generations of cell turnover so that they are actually improving before we start playing with anything else. Okay, so we also want to match your life. Do your adrenals need support? We look at how to start creating a life that you enjoy, that is your daily vacation versus like, I can't wait to go on vacation, and start creating action steps that will fall into your unique life. So I've mentioned the adrenals quite often. This is actually something that comes up in the hormonal testing, and it is something that in Western medicine, doctors are trained to test the thyroid. Adrenals control thyroid. In Eastern medicine, so in Japan and China, they actually don't get paid unless their clients get better. So adrenals are one of the first things that they check. When we don't have a true thyroid issue, when we correct the adrenals, the thyroid self-correct. One of my clients, she's been on Synthroid for 22 years. She's been on an adrenal protocol, and her thyroid is self-correcting. She has been misdiagnosed with a thyroid problem for 22 years, when in actuality, it's quite easy to fix. So one of the things that we look at for creating a life that you can feel really good about and have less stress is calendar work. When we start looking at your daily life, we start to be able to see where time can be optimized and where enjoyment, fun, and rest can happen. All is needed so that the brain can start resting, to be able to predict what's coming and to press the easy button. The brain does not actually like to work. The brain will take the easiest path, the path least resistance always. And this is why habits are so hard to break, because the brain doesn't have to think when we have a habit. But the moment we try and think and do something different, the brain will throw up all the reasons why it will not work, because it doesn't want to do the work. However, the brain loves to solve problems. So if you put up a problem and you get curious on how you can solve that problem, well, then your brain is your playground. So it's about coaching you through that process and figuring out ways and little hacks that we can actually start creating the life that you want. So self-development, growth, and recognition. This happens throughout the program. Each coaching session helps you learn more about yourself, address root causes and challenges so that you can do the deeper work so that the changes you are making will last. Coaching provides the right support, the right action steps, and the right accountability. It does not give you more information to dig through yourself. We give you curated information. So when you show up and you're willing and open to do things differently, to learn new things, you and your coach can be unstoppable. And then this is what we do. We offer 90-day programs because you can't be a great businesswoman if your health does not match. And you can't become an amazing, better version of yourself where you pick yourself up off the floor and you create a life that you are so proud of if you don't know what's going on cellularly to help yourself. You can do all the inner work you want, but if you're missing this piece, you're going to hit that glass ceiling all the time. And I say that as a Karuna Reiki master. I say that as a somatic emotional practitioner. I believe in all of that, but we need everything to come into alignment.